Kuzuzampo, welcome to Bhutan This Week, our weekly news magazine program with me, Pema. Our top stories this week. His Majesty visited Gelifu, Sansi and Phuntsho on a royal tour. Government to lose about 840 million Younten as revenue loss from Tala hydropower plant shutdown. And National Assembly discussed the exorbitant price rise of goods. His Majesty the King arrived in Thimphu on Sunday after a royal tour of the south and entered facility quarantine. During the tour, His Majesty visited Gelifu, Sansi and Phuntsho.
En route to Gelifu on Thursday, His Majesty met with the trainees of the 47th Batch Daesung Training Program in Tshering and with Desups working in Semjong and Pasaling water projects in Tsirang. Semjong water project, which started in November last year, benefits some 570 people in Dangchhu, providing drinking water and irrigation. The water supply scheme was completed and inaugurated on Friday. The project in Pasaling was launched earlier this month with 45 Desups and will benefit over 150 people in the area. In Gelifu, His Majesty the King granted audiences to the 47th Batch Daesung Program trainees at Jimiling and Pelrithang training centres. His Majesty also met with the Gelifu COVID Task Force team and sector heads. While in Samse, His Majesty visited Tendu and Tshering to meet Daesung trainees. His Majesty thanked them for their choice to volunteer and serve the nation. His Majesty encouraged them as well as those Desups who have already completed their training and are serving in various capacities across the country to take advantage of the opportunities provided by the Daesung Skilling Program. While in Samse, His Majesty also met with the Desups working at the Lingte water project, which will provide irrigation water to the people of Lingtang and Kangzanling villages. In Phuntsho today, His Majesty granted an audience to the Southern COVID Task Force as well as the Incident Management Team, which leads frontline workers in Phuntsho. Tandan Phuntsho, BBS News.
Bhutan's first and largest integrated water supply project is completed and handed over to the farmers. The project, initiated last year in Dangchhu in Semjong Gewog of Tsirang, will supply reliable water for drinking and irrigation. It was undertaken as a pilot project under the Daesung National Service Water Project. Prime Minister Dr. Tshering inaugurated this scheme.
More than 70 families will have adequate drinking water hereafter. It will also help irrigate over 200 acres of land belonging to more than 570 farmers in the Gewog. Taking advantage of the project, farmers have also revived 14 acres of fallow land this year.
Same guy la. Tangachi age disu beru namisame toa sabji beru gachira beru namisame ki toa ani be benigi sarsi nanale namisame ila.
Dadi chu yishinaji da ombabdi da yarjer jong simidi tangachi hatole nok sammiser tu debra tande langachi jana ga mi disu di da dadi te pengi ki juzi ngacha tuli dadi yarjer di himale chebe da dari jabbe tangis.
This water scheme is equipped with an automation system for the efficient usage of water. It will monitor and control the irrigation scheduling through an application from any smartphone. The DHI developed the monitor and control system, and the Agriculture Ministry developed the irrigation scheduling. The relevant Gewog officials and beneficiaries have been trained to operate the automated system.
Ani hema de Wi-Fi on baby mola. Wi-Fi on baby ani apps la. Ani apps na ani time gamchina ani bini. Time gamchina chuni ya time aba gantachi na milet nga chutham gamchi ani joni de rangira in nara yila. Honnara yila.
At the inauguration, Prime Minister Dr. Tshering commended the Desups for their dedication and hard work in transforming the lives of the people in the community.
니바소다 카치쇼라 명화들 무치기 투루 차게 유미디 제차차비 랍롭단디기베 명화들 무치 투디도 또 조수미도 나자 나리 홍레다 중기 홍레 제 대수 점마도미 레귤나 점마도미기 대수 말롭 대수 진중기 구딘지수 가라도 때까지 가서 bombe로 유스시니비.
With the successful implementation of the pilot water project, Desubs take home pride as they gained valuable experiences from a complex project with integration of technology unlike other water projects.
당가라 잠시 모두 이가 진나 대숲 냠로 가라 달랴파 배워진 퉁춘날로 배워진 가테라 조루 대다 냠용디 bombe로 톱디 유스 주닐라.
It's a very good platform and the youth should come forward just like us, and the youth out here have a very spiritually high, and they got many experience.
Water being the most important of all needs, brighter opportunities are well on track and living will get better in the coming years here. Since its inception in November last year, the Desung National Water Service Project completed 19 drinking water projects and 8 more similar projects are ongoing across the country. The Desung office is planning to start another project in Jomotangka in Sambrujongkar early next month. For Pema in Tsirang, Kyalzang Choden for BBS News.
The High Court upheld the Thimphu District Court's judgment regarding the criminal conspiracy case. Earlier in July, the District Court sentenced Supreme Court Justice Tshering, Pema Dampen Yishidoji, former Royal Bodyguard Commandant Brigadier Tshogpa, and Khanduangmo to a concurrent prison term ranging from 5 years to 12.5 years. They were convicted of commissioning of criminal conspiracy, mutiny, abetting mutiny, and other criminal offences.
Khanduangmo was handed down a concurrent sentence of 9 years in prison. She was convicted of abetting mutiny, criminal misappropriation of property, larceny by deception, illegal possession of a firearm, and impersonation of uniformed personnel. She also received an additional prison term of 18 months for solicitation of official misconduct and harassment. But she can pay in place of the 18 months prison term. She was arrested in July last year. Earlier this month, the High Court also sentenced Khanduangmo to 21 years in prison for 3 counts of sedition. Supreme Court Justice Tshering is handed down 5 years prison term for abetting mutiny. He was arrested in February this year. And Pema Yishidoji was convicted of abetting mutiny and larceny by deception. He was handed down a concurrent prison term of 5 years. He was also arrested in February this year. The former commandant was the only one who did not appeal to the High Court. The District Court handed him concurrent sentences of 10 years for mutiny, criminal misappropriation of property, and aiding and abetting to the illegal possession of a firearm and impersonation of uniformed personnel. He was also convicted for official misconduct and harassment and sentenced to additional 2.5 years in prison. However, he was allowed to pay in lieu of the 2.5 years prison term. He was arrested in November last year. Tsirang, BBS News.
The High Court dismissed the appeal made by the 7 local government candidates whose audit clearances were revoked after the selection procedure. They had appealed to the High Court to authorize them to contest the election since they have not been convicted.
7 of them visited the High Court hoping for a change in the decision. Their audit clearances were revoked after Anti-Corruption Commission had written to the audit authority saying that there are cases against them.
bagin disu matutu bechapsina be ngachere khatule phuni ise te ngachege yalu te digi showa disu phuisi shunila
ngache chatu mabiugi te ngemalera te chelu ni leda diugi la ne be du ta maduwa ne be imbe anile tendi be te chemi thobe se te kana na bachin ngache sem phamgu mindu se shunila te kara begu be judu gu du saudalu te ta goye khonra gi chu te chajoge khonra gi na ngachelu 때 배초비기 람루디소에 코라이 카툴레나 나치 카툴레 차슈베 때 나테라 베사유기 제술립달로 때 참미의 공기 땅아보다 때가치 할리스야시시니라
때 가뎀치베 다니힐레 딩아치기 마베우베 로슐레 딩아치고 니힐레 민도우세 텐데 야섭드오치 베오치 티카데비 베니나가슬라 니힐레기 베디 베세치로 땡아치라 뉴메디 파수비실로 타간 야토로 당오투 야냐톤 투가 숨시치는 거나 때 에시 베곱디 같이 했을라
야지번 가지기 때다 지정원지기 라케디 때다 지정원지기 때 헨손날레 멤버베스나 신지칼레 때 바공순비기 때 녹사에 땅 메시 주닐라 당가지라기 카톨레버치 디수카라 지지원지레 주디게라 바고이 유탄주 힙달루 공이 카톨레 디칼루 참미 세우달루 때나 나메 코라베 참메 땅 베보달루 디칼루 가지기 때 하지 레짐치 고마소
다르기 가지기 아니나 게 맞잡좀 집에 와지 마음발로라 산이 중베로데 중베로데 촉대기 투미베로데 가라 천지라 베집에서 담마지 우수 아니 좀베 때다 레샤라 중세 주니 아니 배월을 뜬디기 베다 아니 좀 17배 디기 베나 테베 이어치디 갑갑다 납납 주급지 가체에서 주니라
야 인다 주니비기 딸이 캐치 이센슬로 싹투기를 받이티나 임베스니 캐치지 천저라 나지라기 녀레 깍달 hensoda ngacheragi te 지지wan지 카톨레라 때다 녀렌데서 잭데라 주의 피미기 피라다 제미기 제데라 다니 이나서 지 아니 나를 카톨레 독바지 아니 이세촌이라
시수기 튀미지 때다 짝투기 데모베 마툼베 해말레 이네 가담 hensoda 주비요 쳬비사기 때 니죽죽 디규베 좀 같은 거 주세 니죽 피디라 피다라베로 때로 자신 dim비 튼신 추르나로 때다 예월은 멋지 디규베 니바 마트순스 니바베 지미초스 퀴디블레텐 디규베 때 kokakcha bemosuba tsoksoy trup tetelero tingi go nejibi dumetsida thammi.
But the High Court said, as per the Election Act, a court shall not have jurisdiction to question the legality of any action taken by the Election Commission in connection with an election, except upon receiving an election petition or an election appeal. For Karmondi, this is Sangeet for BBS News.
The Royal Audit Authority revoked audit clearances of 12 LG candidates. 9 are GUP candidates, 2 are Mangmi candidates, and 1 is a Chhogyel candidate. And most of them are from Wangdue. The authority said the Anti-Corruption Commission has cases against them and it qualified for investigation. More than 7,000 candidates contesting the upcoming local government election applied for the audit clearance. Education consultancy and placement firms appear to have evaded tax amounting to 45 million Younten between 2014 and 2019. This is according to a study on the tax compliance strategy on education consultancy and placement firms. According to the Revenue Intelligence Division of the Department of Revenue and Customs, the study was conducted to address the issue of misreported incomes, streamlining the sector and recovering the tax losses.
The division had asked the firms to redeclare their income during a consultative meeting in Thimphu last year. The division told them that if they redeclare their misreported incomes, the fines and penalties shall be waived to the maximum possible. And most firms redeclared their incomes. There are about 39 firms. Currently, the regional customs offices are conducting a reassessment of the past tax leakages based on the findings of the compliance strategy report. The issue came to light after ACC received a complaint about tax evasion by an education consultancy and placement firm last year. The case was then referred to the Revenue Intelligence Division. For now, the investigation is almost over. Tshering, BBS News.
The Tala hydropower plant in Chukka will be shut down for 3 months from the end of this month. According to the Drug Green Power Corporation, this is to carry out a detailed inspection of the headrest tunnel and make necessary repairs as recommended by international experts. An earlier inspection conducted in March found cracks and holes in the tunnel and some debris on the tunnel floor.
The 1020 megawatt Tala hydropower plant is the country's largest plant and a major contributor to domestic revenue. The 3-month shutdown will lead to a revenue loss of about 840 million Younten. The DGPC's managing director, Dashutang Rinzin, said Bhutan will experience a shortfall in power supply for its domestic market. Arrangements will be made to import power from India to cater to any shortfall in supply during the 3 months. During the lean season, the Tala hydropower generates about 190 megawatt of electricity, all of which is used for domestic consumption. However, the Tala hydropower plant has been experiencing recurrences of concrete blocks and other debris in certain parts of the turbine in the powerhouse since September 2018. To prevent further increase in loss of concrete blocks and widening of the cracks, experts recommended a physical inspection as soon as possible. The DGPC says the inspection will require at least 45 days to dewater the tunnel and another 15 days to refill the tunnel, providing only around 1 month for inspection and repair of defects. In March this year, the DGPC used a remotely operated vehicle equipped with underwater cameras and sonar technology to inspect the tunnel. Semjong for BBS News.
Only 1 in 2 children living with disabilities in the country goes to school. This is according to data with the Education Ministry. Currently, there are over 1,600 children living with disabilities in the country, out of which only about 750 go to schools. This was discussed during the National Conference on Disability held in Thimphu.
During the conference, the Education Ministry pointed out that lack of awareness among parents and caregivers on special education needs schools or SEN schools has caused low enrollment of children. Besides that, lack of educational facilities is also found to have aggravated the problem.
Our children with disabilities are mostly in the rural areas. The schools for inclusive and special education programs are quite far away from the places, and probably our parents are finding very difficult to reach and pick their children from the schools.
However, this could soon change. The ministry plans to establish 28 inclusive and special education schools by 2023.
Slowly, we are planning to roll out these inclusive and special education programs to all schools in Bhutan, so that our teachers are prepared well, at least to address the basic needs and also identify some of the difficulties, for example, learning difficulties.
Today, there are 21 inclusive and special education schools and 2 special institutes in the country. Pema Tshering, BBS News.
For the first time, the Bhutan Council for School Examinations and Assessment, or BICSI, is carrying out a nationwide assessment of students in grade 3. This is being done under the National Education Assessment Project. More than 4,600 sample students from grade 3 across 184 sample schools are participating in the assessment. The project will assess and monitor the country's school education system. The assessment will end this month. Students are being assessed on Dzongkha and English reading literacy and mathematical literacy. Apart from this, BICSI will also administer students' value and background questionnaires.
This data is going to be very good data which will help us not only to understand the cognitive rigor of the children, but also how much values, what values and then attitude the child possesses. And also, since we are administering the background questionnaire, that will also help us to understand what are the factors affecting the learning outcomes of the children.
Apart from the students, teachers from each sample school teaching grade 3, including principals, and Dzongkha and Thomde education officers, will also participate in the assessment. The National Education Assessment will be carried out every after 3 years at various key stages of grade 3, 6, and 9.
So in 2024, what happens is we are going to capture a new cohort of grade 3, and the same cohort of 2021 would have reached grade 6. So we would have captured the new cohort of grade 3, and we will also capture the same cohort in 2024 when they are in grade 6. That way it helps us to measure the learning outcomes, or we say the standard of the education.
The findings of the assessment will be released next year. The assessment project worth 35 million Younten is funded by the Global Partnership for Education. The National Education Assessment was introduced in 2004 and was carried out for 6th grade students, but it was discontinued due to lack of framework and budget constraints. The Education Ministry launched the framework last year. Pem for BBS News. Exorbitant price rise of goods in the market was one of the issues raised during the question hour session of the National Assembly. The Mongar MP Ugenwandi from Dermisingatsang constituency said the rise in the price of essential commodities has affected especially the low-income group.
The Mongar MP questioned the Economic Affairs Minister on measures and the support system that are put in place to solve these issues.
Gewog disu ma Bangkok Thailand le ma Calcutta port na hebe bana Thailand da Calcutta port na hebe gi bana ra tenga chara gi chala gi gong se disu hipchi te gong nam same da achichia membela che bawachin te jachale bawachin hipchi ngapchu nganga de chi gi yarseng yasunula izumbera ma Calcutta le na ngachara Phuntsho chenchi homi diswe te jachale bawachin sumchu so sum de chi gi yarseng yasunu she junila te ma thenkhungi sagonalera yasing be beuda te ngachena yobda dele covid gi diksi disu chugobela dina banakom dele mahuda disugia gong yase asi.
The Economic Affairs Minister said the government is encouraging a wholesale and distribution system. He said the government is also providing subsidies to local farm producers to increase production. The minister added that the ministry's secretary met the Commerce Secretary of India recently to address these problems. On Thursday, the opposition leader asked the finance minister why the reduction in customs duty to 10% did not benefit the consumers. He said the price of the commodities in the market has not changed. The finance minister said the price of consumer goods from third countries has not dropped because of the rise in the cost of production and transportation due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And if it was not 10%, the price would be way higher. Chonidama for BBS News.
In the past 5 months, the Health Ministry detected 22 new HIV cases. Out of it, 13 are male and 9 are female. In terms of the mode of transmission, 21 cases had acquired the infection through unprotected sex and 1 was mother-to-child transmission. Currently, all the new cases are under care and treatment. As an environmentally rich country, Bhutan is home to many species of plants and animals. The areas which house them hold high value in terms of ecology, social and culture. To ensure that they are conserved for all times to come, the Department of Forests and Park Services and the World Wildlife Fund are initiating a project to appropriately manage the areas. Titled Living Landscapes Securing High Conservation Value in the Southwestern Bhutan, the project will be implemented in 9 districts.
The project will identify 9 high-value conservation areas in Chukha, Dagana, Ha, Paro, Samtsi, Sarpang, Thimphu, Tsirang and Semjong districts. High conservation value area is any area such as a forest, grassland, watershed or landscape ecosystem that needs to be properly managed in order to maintain or enhance their value. It will ensure that the natural resources of the biodiversity-rich areas in these districts are managed sustainably.
One of the district for this project is Semjong district. In Semjong we have the presence of tiger there, so which is a very significant species, it's a flagship species that requires conservation.
The project also intends to improve livelihoods and enhance income of the households which fall in the project landscape. Among many issues, the project will focus on addressing human-wildlife conflict and water-related issues in areas which fall under the project sites.
We have realized that there are significant ecological critical values that are lying outside the protected areas. So they require some sort of interventions in terms of either maintaining their values to sustain so that our communities benefit from these values.
What we are trying to do through this HGB is basically trying to balance the conservative objective of our department, and as well as to meet the developmental needs and resource needs of our people who are living in the rural areas.
The implementing agencies such as the Department of Forests and Park Services, Narayana Foundation and the National Land Commission Secretariat will be carrying out the project in the selected areas. The project is expected to identify and put at least 9 high conservation value areas under management regime by 2028. Bukhem for Base News.
The country is taking part in the Asian Youth Para Games for the first time. Sapna Subba will be competing in badminton. The Bhutanese team initially had one more para-athlete to take part in the long jump, but he was disqualified. The Asian Youth Para Games is being held in Bahrain. It is a multi-sport event held every 4 years for young athletes with disabilities aged between 12 and 20. More than 1,500 participants from 31 Asian countries are taking part in the games. That's all for this week. Thank you for joining us.